started.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're just going to wait another 2 minutes for a few more attendees to join. We have quite a big group today from Indonesia, some clients from India, some clients from Malaysia, and also some clients from the Philippines. Just let me, while we wait for everyone to log in, introduce everyone here today. My name is Judith. I'm from International Property Settlements, and Jamie and I are based in Malaysia. We've been selling Australian property for the past 11 years, and the opportunity to market Portugal came up around 4 years ago, and since then we've never looked back. We have about 60 to 70 clients, many of whom already have approvals for the Golden Visa, and we're proud to say we have a 100% success rate. That's mainly because Jamie is a Golden Visa holder, and she knows exactly what she's doing in terms of the properties that we choose, but also the Golden Visa process. And she'll be introducing as well Antonio. Antonio is in Lisbon. He's originally Spanish. He practices law in both Portugal and Spain, and he was Jamie's lawyer, and he's also the lawyer for most of our clients for the property conveyancing and also the Golden Visa. And we have our partner here as well from Philippines, Vicky Louise. Vicky, like to say hi?
Yes, hello everybody. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. I'm actually partners with Judith and Jamie for the Philippines. So I joined this webinar because some of them are here today. You will find that at the end of this webinar, it's very, very informative. You will see how this is beneficial, that it helps you travel once you get your residency without having to apply for a visa as Filipinos. The properties that are presented by us are freehold, so you own them. We offer you a lot of options for rental and hands-free management, and we'll hold your hand throughout the journey. So thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. So, and also last but not least that I'm introducing right now is Georgina. Georgina is our partner in Indonesia, and Georgina will bring up some of her slides and introduce herself. Georgina, to you.
Okay, hello everybody. My name is Georgina Mika. I'm based in Jakarta, and I started this Portugal Golden Visa with IPS Real Estate and Apco Legal this year, and I got some good response and already got some clients also. Mostly, all are Indonesia, but I got some projects also from overseas. I think for Indonesia, this is something new that, we can say that have not been promoted before, or maybe from overseas. There was a webinar before, but in Indonesia we've never done it. So still need some time to educate the market and introduce Golden Visa, Portuguese Golden Visa, especially for people in the main cities like Jakarta, Surabaya, and the main provinces, something like that. So I will be the host for this webinar. And for Indonesian participants, if you want to ask questions in Bahasa, please do so, then I will translate it for you. Thank you. Can we start?
Yes, please move on to the rest of your slides.
Okay. Okay, let's. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you for joining this webinar. We have 26 participants and still counting because my friend still WhatsApp me at this moment. Anyway, My name is Georgina Mikkel. I'm from Internegeri Migration, and I'll be the host for this webinar. And I think Judith has already introduced herself, but let me reintroduce her one more time. We're here to present the Portugal Golden Visa, and we're here with Judith Leo from IPS Real Estate, Malaysia. Jamie is a Portugal Golden Visa holder, and she's also from AFCO Legal, and she's based in KL. And Antonio Vinhal Jr. is a senior partner of AFCO Legal Portugal, and he's in Lisbon at this moment, right? Okay. So here's mine. And a little bit about myself. I'm based in Jakarta, and I'm promoting some countries, but only for permanent resident or residency permit, and not for the citizenship by investment, because for Indonesian, we are not supposed to have a dual citizenship. So I only promote PR. So at this moment, I promote Portugal, Spain, Cyprus, Greece, US, Canada, Australia, and New Zealand, and mostly are the investment based. So there's the webinar rundown. I will do the opening, and then after that, straight to the main presentation for the Portugal Golden Visa, and also the real estate options by Judith, Jamie, and Antonio. And then I will lead the Q&A. And also, I think it's better Judith will do the closing. Yeah, Judith. Okay. And in this webinar, please feel free if you want to ask questions by just verbally. It's better, especially if you have long questions to ask. But if you want to just chat, or if you, for Indonesians, if you just want to type in bahasa, chat in bahasa, then you're welcome as well. And please mute your audio during the presentation, but you are welcome to keep your audio on, no problem. And this is my contact details. Especially for Indonesians, if you haven't met me before, or you haven't been in contact with me before, this is my contact details, and I will get in touch with you after the webinar. Thank you. Okay, go on, Judith. Let me stop sharing. Judith, you're still mute.
Unmute. First up, our first speaker today is Jamie, and Jamie has a Portugal Golden Visa, so she'll be telling a little bit about her story, and also on the Portugal Golden Visa rules.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. Selamat petang. Thank you so much for making time to join us for the webinar today. I think first and foremost, as introduced by both Georgina as well as Judith, I'm actually in my Golden Visa process. To be specific, I'm actually already on my 4th year of the Golden Visa process. And this program is actually a wonderful program that has been introduced by the government since 2012. And since then, more than 16,000 people have actually achieved getting a residency in Portugal. This particular program, I think, is extremely beneficial, I think, for my family as an alternative residency, and also for potential work and study opportunities for my children. Originally, actually, what happened was the Spanish ambassador originally suggested to my husband to actually look at an alternative residency in Spain. However, after having gone through and visited both countries in Spain and Portugal, I was pleasantly surprised that Portugal's real estate market itself was very thriving. And at the same time, there happened to be more approvals at that point in time, about 5 years ago. And so we started investigating a little bit more, and then we realized one of the reasons why the golden visa, there's been many golden visas in Portugal at that point in time. In a way, it has been more successful when more successful golden visa program when I embarked on the program, was also due to the fact that the program is very flexible and only requires a very minimal number of stays in order for you to get a residency. So coupled with all this, and of course for us, I think the residency at that point in time was actually an alternative for us, but we wanted to actually just invest in a yielding asset that will also give us good returns in terms of rental yields, as well as capital appreciation. And last but not least, of course, with this particular card, with this card, it's actually been very useful during this pandemic period, because as you know, a lot of the embassies are no longer issuing Schengen visas for non-essential travel. And with this card itself, it will still allow a lot of people to travel, and for a lot of family members to be together. So I'm going to recap one of the main reasons and the key features of the benefits of the Portuguese Golden Visa and why I actually decided on the Portuguese Golden Visa. Firstly, in terms of amongst all the other residency programs, I think it's one of the lowest investment options. You can actually invest from a minimum of 280,000 euros, although I actually chose the 350,000 rehabilitation projects to invest in. The second thing, as I mentioned to you, is we didn't actually want to relocate. We wanted to have an option for a residency that will allow us to spend a minimum number of days, which actually worked out to be an average of only 7 days per year. The next thing in terms of the process is also very quick. You can get basically your biometrics are scheduled within the next 6 to 8 months once you've decided on your Portuguese to embark on the program. And most importantly, I think during this pandemic as well, a lot of families are separated because they don't have the specific residency. So if you study there, then you, as a parent, you can't be with your child because you may not have the residency. So this then becomes very important because you can actually just make one investment and allow your family and reunify up to 3 generations, which Antonia will also cover. So this then becomes very useful during the pandemic period, because you can still be with your children and the family can be together. And I think that's actually one of the major benefits of the program. Now, in addition to that, with that one investment, you can also access the healthcare, which is important because Portugal is also ranked 12th in the world. In fact, your healthcare is even better than the UK. And you can also live, work, and study in Portugal during the duration of the Portuguese Golden Visa, because by being a temporary resident, you are then able to also have these benefits and also access the education in Portugal. The next thing that it's also important to note is after the temporary residency, you can actually choose to also opt for obtaining the PR, permanent residency, which will allow you the same benefits of the temporary residency a la Golden Visa as well, whereby you will be able to live, work, and study in Portugal. And with that card that I mentioned to you, that Schengen card itself, you're allowed to actually stay 90 out of 180 days in any of the Schengen countries. So the permanent residency is just an extension of the temporary residency. The only difference is that there will be no more renewals in that sense, only every 5 years in that sense. So because of that, it becomes an option to consider. The other option that some may want to consider later on is to consider the citizenship, which you can also choose after 5 years if you don't want the PR, or you can choose the PR and then do the citizenship later. But the citizenship allows you to access Europe in totality. It allows you to live for unlimited number of days in any of the 27 countries. It allows you to work without needing a work permit or any further residency in any of the countries. It allows you to also study for free, actually, in some of the public institutions. or at reduced rates, and you pay up to only, it comes to only about 10% actually of the international school fees in some of the private institutions. So again, this becomes very beneficial because especially for our children, I think it's, as parents, it's important for us to allow them to pursue their careers and pursue a profession that they are good in. And it can be anything ranging from medicine, or ranging from being the next classical musician, or even becoming the next Michelin star chef. I think the idea that we have this opportunity and gateway becomes a very important gateway for the children. So these are actually the list of the 27 countries. And a lot of the countries actually also offer education in English. There are also English only degrees. And especially like for some of the countries that are high on the list, amongst a lot of our clients are also looking at countries such as Ireland, because South Ireland itself belongs to the EU. You can then continue to study in Ireland as well, and amongst all the other countries that you can see in the list. So I think this itself then becomes very useful, because in addition to that, by being a citizen, you are also becoming a citizen in EU, which will then allow you to also travel visa-free in many countries, including the US and Canada, whereby you don't actually need to apply for visas anymore if you're a Portuguese citizen. So that's also an option that one may consider. Again, I would say one of the major benefits of the Portuguese Golden Visa is it's extremely flexible. You can choose temporary residency. You can continue temporary residency for as long as you want to, or you can also choose PR or choose citizenship at any point in time, and you can always convert in between. So I think because of that, that has also made us decide on choosing Portugal as our choice of destination and residency to embark on. Last but not least, I think in any and every investment, especially in a foreign country, I think most of us are always a little bit concerned, right? Who will take care of my property? Oh, who will take care of my investment? And how do I even start to make an investment? And how can I be assured of that my investment is properly taken care of? So I would say last but not least, one of the comforts that I derive in making that decision to invest in Portugal, also because I met Antonio. I've met many lawyers in Portugal, but I was really happy with the level of detail and clarity and commitment that the team has had. And that's why since then I've been introducing also friends and helping ASCO as well, because I believe in their mission in putting together a good community, and with their large presence in Asia as well, has actually made me also decide to embark on the Portuguese Golden Visa. Last but not least, I'll hand over right now to Antonio to go through the specifics and on how you can actually go about in getting a Golden Visa and the requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. Thank you for your very kind introduction. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Antonio, and I will be walking you today through some of the most relevant features of the Portuguese Golden Visa program. We will kick things off, taking a look at the three basic criteria. Number one, of course, this is a residency by investment program. So you would have to choose your qualifiable investment and keep it for 5 years. Then, of course, you must show that you have a clean criminal record, and this naturally for the duration of the program itself, and the minimum stay that is required in order to renew your Golden Visa is actually minimum. The first 2 years, your first card is valid for 2 years. That is 14 days. The next card is also valid for 2 years. You will need to spend 14 days. And then the third card, you will also get it for 2 years, but you only need to spend 7 days for year 5. And as you will not be renewing that Golden Visa later on, you will probably go to citizenship or into permanent residency. Now, the most popular option is the one highlighted in the middle. That's property option. And then in this option, you have actually two different sub options. Number one is you buy one or more properties anywhere in Portugal for 500,000 euro. Number two is you select a property that needs refurbishment, and not any property. It has to be at least 30 years old, or it has to be located in a urban renewal area as defined by the council. And the cost of the property plus cost of the refurbishment needs to reach 350,000 at the very least. Okay. Now, this is according to the current rules. Some of you might have heard that come January next year, the residential properties in the coastal area or the more populated areas will not be eligible anymore. So if you're keen on residential properties, this is the time to jump in. If not, if you're still interested in the more populated areas, Lisbon, Porto, etc., you will only be able to invest in commercial properties. And then with regard to funds, the minimum right now is 250,000. Come January, it will jump to 500,000 euro. So those are the most popular options. Now, one of the great benefits that the Portuguese Golden Visa program offers is the ability to reunify, regroup your family members. This, of course, includes the spouse or your partner, children under 18, but also children above 18, as long as they're financially dependent, meaning they're single, they don't have a family of their own, and they are still studying. Parents, the applicant's parents or the spouse's parents are also eligible. We also need to show that they are financially dependent. After 5 years, you would come, as Jamie pointed out, to a fork in the road. You can go to permanent residency or citizenship. Now, the requirements for citizenship are you have been a holder of your Golden Visa for the past 5 years. You would need to keep and show you have a clean criminal record and pass a very simple Portuguese language test. Very simple, very basic level of Portuguese. And then, of course, we recommend that you keep your citizenship until, your investment until citizenship is granted, and then you can sell off your investment. As in terms of a timeline, we would kick things off with a Portuguese tax number. You will need this tax number for the purpose of opening the bank account and purchasing the property. Number two, you open your bank account, which is a very central element. Your money needs to be transferred into a Portuguese bank account. The bank will issue a statement attesting to the transfer of this money. Then you would select your investment. This investment, of course, will be the basis of your application. You would apply. The application consists of two phases. Number one, you do not need to travel. It's done online, and we get the pre-approval. And this usually takes around 2 to 3 months, after which we get this pre-approval and we would be able to book your appointment for your biometrics. That's when you do need to come to Portugal and we submit the full file. And then we would wait for a number of months until issuance. Then we repeat this at the end of year 2. First card is valid for 2 years, and then at the end of year 4. So this is just a recap. First card, valid for 2 years. Minimum stay during those 2 years of 14 days. And you can see the government fees below. So whether it's a family member or the main applicant, the cost is exactly the same in terms of processing fee and the cost of the card itself. Second card is very similar, 2 years, but the cost of the card itself is actually a little lower. And finally, third card, also valid for 2 years, and the cost is exactly the same as the first renewal. Now, of course, we are discussing a property purchase. Very important element is taxes. And so when purchasing a property, we will be looking at 2 types of taxes. That is a one-off cost transfer tax that is on a sliding scale, and then stamp duty. So we would be looking at something between 6.5, maybe 7.5 generally on the purchase price. Annual costs, well, you would have your council tax, your annual property tax that is calculated not on the market price or purchase price, but on the much, much lower taxable value of the property. So the tax administration has an assessment on all of the properties, and it is much lower. And the rate is 0.3 to 0.45%, depending on which council the property is located in. Should you wish to make some income on your investment, then if you lease your property, you would be looking at long-term rental or short-term rental. Long-term rental for non-residents, 28%, that is the rate. And the short-term rental income, the 12.5%. All in all, it's a very good proposition because in Portugal, there's no wealth tax. There is no inheritance and gift tax. And as we've just seen, there's a very low rate for short-term rental. So you get low taxes, you get your golden visa, you get an investment in property, for instance, that will appreciate over time. And you get the opportunity of applying later on for citizenship in an EU country. So again, a very, very good package for the investor. That's all for me right now, and I will pass on the baton to Judith. Thank you very much.
Thank you. So in this part of the webinar, we're just going through a little bit about Portugal and also on some of the property options that you may have or you may like. Portugal is on the west side of Spain, and there's a population of around 10.5 million people. Portuguese is actually the 5th most spoken language. Capital is Lisbon, currency is euro, climate temperate Mediterranean. English is widely spoken. About 60% speak fluent English, and it's a country with very affordable cost of living. So it's actually very impressive in terms of international rankings. It's the 3rd safest country in the world after Iceland and New Zealand. So Iceland, all that is ice, New Zealand sheep, outnumber people 7-1. So it's very impressive in terms of a country with people, which is very safe. Portugal remains the favorite destination in Europe for best travel. And even during now, there's lots of tourists in Portugal, and it looks like Portugal will have a very busy month of August. Portugal is also a second in Europe for affordable healthcare. It is also has one of the most powerful passports, 5th most powerful passports in the world. It actually ranks 10th in terms of the world's best democracies, and they're very proud. It's one of the countries with the highest life expectancies. Portugal, as Lisbon as a city, ranks 134 among some 200 cities in terms of cost of living, even ranking more affordable than cities like Jakarta, Bangkok, and of course Singapore, Hong Kong, New York, London. And it's actually the 3rd most top expat destination after Taiwan and Vietnam. It's also the best retirement destination in 2020. So there's an article here in the Resident saying extraordinary Portugal ranked as the best country for Americans to retire to. And in terms of the best 2020 retirement destinations, Portugal ranks #1, even above Panama, Costa Rica, and Mexico. Portugal education rankings as well ranks really high. We do get this question quite often for education for kids, and we do provide some sort of consultations on universities which may suit your children, but certainly it has one of the best MBA programs, actually the 6th best MBA programs in the world, and it is also ranked 35 in the QS World Education University rankings. English is widely spoken. Many of the courses are conducted also in dual language and English in the universities, but as a general in the city of Lisbon, you have no problem getting by in English. The train stations are dual language, and yeah, many people speak English as good as Antonio actually. So Portugal is also a technology hub. In fact, it's known as Silicon Valley of Europe. This article saying major companies are moving to Portugal. Here's why. Amazon, Google, Vestas, and Zalando, IBM have actually moved to Portugal because of the low cost of living, a great environment, great weather, but also a cheap cost, and also availability of talent, high amount of university graduates, particularly in these IT sectors as well. So Volkswagen and Mercedes have actually moved their technology divisions to Portugal. So those are some of the reasons why. They also hold a web summit at the end of every year, which is very popular, where people around the world talk about web technology in Lisbon. It's also ranked as #1 in 2019 on the emerging trends of European real estate. Lisbon ranked as #1 place to invest in because of the quality of life, positive leadership, economic growth, and Lisbon as a country, as a destination for companies to invest in as well. This other article by EY states that in terms of a foreign direct investment into Portugal, actually there is a very big a growth, even during this time, one of the top growths in Europe. And in fact, 90% of the investors are very confident that even during this pandemic, there's not much impact on the Portuguese attractiveness. It won't last very long, like the pandemic the effects won't last very long, a maximum of 3 years, and foreign direct investment will continue flowing in. In terms of real estate, Lisbon actually still ranks very positively in terms of cities like Madrid, Berlin, Paris, and of course London. So we look like it's one of those one of the lowest house price to income ratios in Europe. Forbes names it one of the most investable countries in 2020. It's one of the hottest property markets in Europe according to Bloomberg in 2019. And Knight Frank actually forecasts that Lisbon will have one of the best price growth for Portugal in 2020 and 2021 post-COVID. So yields as well and capital appreciation. Yields look like for long-term yields, there is a 4% with growth upwards towards 5%. And it actually has had a very stable house price growth even during this time, above 7% per year. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about Lisbon as a city. So Portugal is on the west side of Spain, and let me just go up a little bit. Lisbon is actually at its center. So a lot of investment is focused in Lisbon, and also a city called Porto, about 3 hours drive north of Lisbon, and some of the properties as well along the coast in Algarve. So Lisbon is the capital, and thus it has been and probably will remain one of the main cities for investment into Portugal. So Lisbon is in the middle, west, sort of west side, and it has a river running through it called the Tagus River. It actually it spans from here, Park Nations in the east to the west in a city called Cascais. Or in the part called Cascais, and from Park Nations to Cascais is probably 1 to 1.5 hours drive. So it's not a very extremely big city. Most of the city concentrates here, where there is this square over here, and actually it's not so big at all. If you were to walk, it probably takes maybe about 45 minutes from one part to another. And these are the hot areas for investment. This is also the central part of the city over here. So here where there's where's the center Justo lived. The center is also characterized by a roundabout called Marquis Pombal and a road called Avenida Liberdade, where you would see like the Louis Vuittons and all that. It's like a shopping road, almost like Champs-Élysées and Arc de Triomphe. And there's also a commercial square here at the end of the of that kind of road, and it is by the river as well. So all along here and by the river, I would suppose is Lisbon's hot areas for investment. That's where commerce is focused on, retail, of course, and of course tourism as well. So this is in a JLL map, the hot zones. So it's from Park Nations right until towards Cascais. We like to focus on some of these areas around this red area over here. So the red area over here is the prime, where there is a roundabout here called Marquis Pombal, and then Avenida Libertad. The area though has increased quite a lot in terms of pricing. So where we like to focus is a little bit out of the red area over here, but still walkable into right into the center of the city as well. So those areas are characterized by this part called Colina Santana, Avenida Novas, and also Campo Oric, Estrella, and also some historical zones in Chiado and Príncipe Real. So I will be showing you some light properties around this area. Many of the Lisbonites don't actually drive, and thus the metro, walking around and the metro is very popular and is very essential. So staying near a, whether staying or whether you have an office or you have a house or an apartment near the metro is extremely important. And so this is basically the zone 1, this white area over here. And so we would tend to pick properties a walkable distance to one of these metro stations. The center, which I always refer to, is this Marquis Pombal, which is where the green line passes the, the blue line passes the yellow line, Marquis Pombal, and then going into Avenida Libertad, going into Baix Saciado, and then also towards here, Kaiser Sodre. So this is some of the sort of important parts of the city. Saldana, where Antonio's office is the commercial district, Alameda as well, and then of course into the universities, the Ciudad Universitaria, the university city as well. So Lisbon is also a university city, which makes it very unique because there's also the university market for tenancies, potential tenancies, and of course investment returns as well. So these are some of the examples. This is the map looking north to south. So I'm looking north of the city towards the bridge, which you also see behind me. This bridge is called April the 25th Bridge. It is probably Lisbon's most popular landmark, and you would see almost every picture of Lisbon having this bridge behind it. And the reason is because this is a historical bridge, but also everywhere north around this bridge is the sort of touristic areas, but also the commercial where you would eat and shop and have your holiday in Lisbon mainly. But it is also the retail and the commercial centers as well. This particular property is called Oric Door. It is in Campo Oric, which is an area which is typically quite a French area of Lisbon. It is walkable distance, just 20 minutes walk into Marquis Pombal and Avenida Libertad. It's also opposite the flagship mall of Lisbon called Amoreiras, where it's a rather big mall in Lisbon. And it's also a commercial center where you would find a McKinsey and Accenture having their offices there. BNP Paribas, also big hotels around there as well. So this is a good property under the 350,000 zone or 350,000 scheme as well. So let me just summarize. Actually, the Portugal Golden Visa is a 5-year program. It's a very simple program. It is a visa by investment, and 95% of people who embark on this program invest in a property. The properties are from 280,000. In general, if you buy anything, it falls under the 500,000 scheme in the main cities of Lisbon, Porto, and some parts of Algarve. But if you buy a property which is more than 30 years old in the urban rehabilitation area and for renovation, then you only have to spend a maximum of property price plus renovation of 350,000. Some of these properties fall under the 350,000 scheme, and so instead of having to spend 500,000 for a ready property, you can spend just 350,000. So this particular property is one of them. It's close to everything actually, and it also has lifts and parking, so this is quite a good one. As Antonio mentioned earlier, a commercial property will not in terms of at the end of the year, the rules will change, and the rules will change to limit Porto and Lisbon and some parts of Algarve properties for the purposes of the Golden Visa, so they won't qualify anymore. But commercial properties will still qualify. This is a commercial property. It's a shop. It's in Santa Barbara. It's actually a street retail shop. Again, not too far away from Avenida Libertad. This area is very unique because it's right next to the National Bank office of Portugal, Banco Portugal. So it is actually a very good location for a shop. This is also 350,000 scheme eligible, and it's a commercial unit. There is a rental guarantee of 4% for 5 years. It's also close to the central bank, and it also has lifts and parking. There is some units above, and also there's for residential and also commercial units at the bottom. So we just wanted to show you that we also, apart from a residential, you could also invest in a commercial like a shop, and street retail is actually very in vogue at the moment, and it makes a very good investment idea. This particular one is in Grassa, I think it's called, the way we pronounce it. And it is just, again, very near Avenida Libertad, near the Praca do Commercial, the commercial square as well. And it's a really nice development, a really good location. And there are also some units here. This particular one also comes with a 4% a 5-year rental guarantee as well, if you're looking for something with a rental guarantee. In general, we would take you through the 5 years. So if you have a property with a rental guarantee, that's great. If you don't, we would actually recommend you a property manager around the area, and whether you want to rent long-term or Airbnb. There are some tax incentives available for Airbnb or short-term rental, as Antonio mentioned earlier. And actually, our clients who have invested and take on the Airbnb option, just like Jamie, actually have really benefited in terms of the returns, but also in terms of the tax advantages as well. So this particular property is also in a very good area, also near Avenida Libertad, and it's 350,000 eligible. It has a 3% 5-year rental guarantee. It's close to the Arroyos Market, and these are duplexes which are also very pretty. If you're looking for something already completed, this particular property in Príncipe Real has already completed. It is under the 500,000 scheme because it is completed, but Príncipe Real is known as one of the trendiest neighborhoods to live in the world, actually. And this building has lifts and parking, and it's in a trendy neighborhood, very walkable to the riverside, and very walkable to Avenida Libertad, and the neighborhood is just really pretty. With lots of restaurants and everything nearby, a short walk as well to the Thai market. This particular one is Alcantara, has beautiful views. If a views is what you're looking at, I would say that this really suits a potential investor who wants to live in Lisbon and spend a substantial time in Lisbon. These units are beautiful. Some of them have views of the bridge, of the April the 25th bridge, which you also see behind me, and it's in a really nice area where there's a lot of F&B around the area, and also of course walkable to the Thai market. It's also just very near the LX factory, and the LX factory is named one of like the top places to visit, but also it is a factory area done into food and beverage, and also shops around there, and it's very popular, not only tourist destination, but a lot of locals like to go there for to meet friends and all that. So and again, it is not far from Avenida Libertad, and also towards like the Thai market. This particular one suits an investor who also wants to live in it. This is one of my favorite projects because it's a historical building. It was actually the original gateway into Lisbon, and it has been now done up into apartments. In fact, there's a pool at the back, again lifts and car parks as well for this particular one. And again, it is not far. It is actually in the commercial district, but as you come out, it's there's a road which leads you to the foodie street. This is quite a traditional area where a lot of Lisbonites stay, so the locals stay here. But again, it's not far from Avenida Libertad, and also of course Marquês Pombal, and it's very near Saldanha as well, where Antonio has his office. You can probably walk from here to Antonio's office. It'd be maybe a 15 or 20-minute walk. If you're looking for a house, around half an hour's drive out of Lisbon, this particular investment is very attractive. Again, it's under the 500,000 scheme, but you can get a house with 3 or 4 bedrooms with a pool. It is in a golf villa. It's called Palmilla Village Golf Resort. This is another one which we find very attractive. It's only 36 minutes from Lisbon, and it's actually an area where it's a township where there's a golf resort, international schools nearby, and also, of course, all the amenities, supermarkets and all that. And it's actually a very thriving township of an international community, thus the international schools nearby and the golf as well. I'm just going to go into options under the 280,000 scheme. So under the 280,000 scheme, we also just slightly out of Lisbon, about an hour out of Lisbon, there is this nice development called Alcácer, in a place called Alcácer do Sal. It is 280,000 eligible. Phase 1 is sold out. It's only 1 hour out of Lisbon, and it is an area, it's a small town outside of an hour out of Lisbon, but it's a thriving township of agriculture. Is also a township where it's near the beach. If one would go to Compota for the beach, you would have to pass this town. So it's a nice township 1 hour out of Lisbon. This particular one, right at the tip of the south of Portugal, is a nice development as well. It's called South Beach Sagres. It's in Algarve. It's newly launched. It's 280,000 eligible. It's a growing town, a popular holiday destination in Algarve. This also has a 3% rental guarantee for 5 years. There is also a town just east of Lisbon called Évora. It's only about an hour, 1.5 hours drive. It's an old Roman town actually, but it's a capital of the Alentejo region. And Alentejo region is the agriculture region of Portugal. There's in this town, and right in this town is where one would go to say, if you own a restaurant in Lisbon, pick out your wine of the week, or you would go and pick out your produce, you would go and pick out your fresh vegetables, grapes, olive oil, cheese for the week. And so it's a very active town. It's a trading town because of its trading for agriculture. And there are beautiful units in this building called LP9. It's one of the last units, actually. It's 280,000 eligible, and this particular unit just happens to be 280,000. It's a 2-bedroom, and this would be a good investment as well. So I'm just going to stop share and start share again, and then I'm going to play a video. And this video is of the most of the developments we have. We can show you the floor plans and price lists and all that, of course. And they also come with a video. I had to choose a video to display. So I'm choosing the one for Campo Ric, which is the first, the one called Auric Door, which is the first one that we showed earlier. So we've come to the end of our presentation, and If you have any questions, we're taking questions now. There's a Q&A section at the bottom of the screen. Please click into there and type out your question. These are our contact details. My name is Judith, and then there's Jamie, Georgina, and if you are inquiring from Philippines, there's Vicky's contact details over there as well. And so we'll move on to some questions. I think we've covered the total cost of funds of investment. Generally, it would be the cost of the property, whether or investment, whether you choose a 280, 350, or 500,000, and then there's stamp duty, legal fees, and also the self-government fees. That's mainly for costs. And Jamie and I, we have Jamie, Georgina, Vicky, and I, we have these calculators. So it's actually based on the investment that you choose. We can always calculate the exact cost from year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, year 5. You can reunify your family, and the cost, the legal fee is only 500 to reunify your family, but the SEF fees will be you will need to pay the SEF fees for each of the family members. But there are ways to save this, and depending on the age of your family and your family members and the family dynamics, so we can also go through with that. There is no inheritance tax. I think this is an interesting question on health insurance. Antonio, would you like to cover the question on health insurance?
Sure. So health insurance is only mandatory for those who actually intend to move into Portugal. If not, you're exempt from actually purchasing health insurance.
Mm-hmm. And what is the age of dependencies of parents? And if the parent is 62, perhaps what are some of the documents that might need to be presented?
Well, depends if the parent in question has already retired, in which case, obviously, it is easy to prove, or easier at least to prove, that he would be financially or she would be financially dependent. And if not, then of course we would need to show enough proof of financial dependency, meaning does the parent live with the investor? Does the investor front the expenses of the parent, et cetera, et cetera? So that's mainly the issue we will have to look into.
There is a question, is there a guarantee that the developers will complete the apartment on time, and how about their past performances? I suppose I can answer this, because we generally choose the investments that we present, and yes, that's one of the things. The past performance of the developers is certainly one of the things we look at. Is there any guarantee that developers will complete the apartment on time? I think Antonio can cover some of that in sort of the contractual parts, where what would happen, Antonio, if the developers don't complete on time, or if the development never happens.
Yes, usually these contracts include a number of clauses for non-performance and claiming of damages and loss of profits eventually.
Mm-hmm. So, okay, I have a question on funds, and I can answer the question on funds. We do have choices on funds, and we can show you. We've actually narrowed it down, Jamie and I, to around 3 funds. Yes, we do check on past performance, definitely. These funds are generally new funds. They are close-ended 6 or 7 year funds, and that's the duration of the Golden Visa. So the fund per se might not have a past performance, but certainly the fund manager will have a past performance. These are the ones we generally choose, and we can actually show you, present to you, about. We've narrowed it down, as we said, to about 2 or 3 funds, and we can definitely present that to you. Can a foreigner get a mortgage in Portugal? Antonio, would you reply on the mortgage portion?
Sure. So bear in mind that the key element in this discussion is residency by investment. Meaning you get your residency card, but you need to invest. So the minimum investment, that has to be your own money. Or if you get a mortgage in your country of origin or a loan in your country of origin, that's fine. Okay. But for Portuguese purposes, they need to see that the minimum 280, 350, 500, whatever it is, has come from outside of Portugal. If you, in Portugal, if you want to get a loan above that, you can. But again, you can only get a loan for any part of the price above the minimum threshold. So above the 280, above the 350, or above the 500. Minimum, that has to be your own money.
Okay, so actually we have a client who bought under the 500,000 scheme and bought a property for 800,000. So for example, and they took out a loan for 300,000 because that's the threshold above the 500,000 scheme. And we can actually let you know that that is actually a good purchase, a good way to purchase. So if you're looking at something, say under the 350,000 scheme, and you invest in something at 700,000, you can borrow 50%, and the interest rate is quite low. So the interest rate is at a fixed rate of around 2% and at a variable rate of around 1.2 to 1.5%. So it's actually quite a good way to invest in Portugal as well. If we purchase, okay, so that's the question. Mortgage. Should the pandemic situation prevent international travel for this year, we will miss out on some of the better investment options that will change at the end of the year. I can answer this one. 90% of our investors actually don't need to visit Portugal before you make the investment. And from my probably standpoint is sometimes it might be better that you kind of look at the investment in terms of a Google map perspective, because we get almost like a you see it from the top, and you can see what's around it and what are the economic generators around your property and what it is like around your property. Google Maps in this situation has been great and really, really wonderful, and you can actually take walks yourself. And of course, we have videos and also we have colleagues there who can take you on a tour as well. So you might not need to visit the investment, and so you don't miss out, as you say, on some of the better investment options. So okay, after 5 years of PR, there's another question. How many days in a year do we have to stay in Portugal, and is there additional cost? Antonio, you might want to answer this. After 5 years of PR, how many days do we, after 5 years for PR, how many days do we have to stay in Portugal?
Yes. Well, there are two options. Basically, option number one, you apply for PR and you have already sold your investment. So in these circumstances, you cannot be away from Portugal for more than 24 consecutive months, or a total of 30 months in a 3-year period. So meaning you would basically be spending 2 months out of the year during 3 years, for 3 years during each of those years. Again, that's under this option whereby you have already sold your investment. Now, a few years ago, they did amend the law so that Golden Visa holders would be exempt from these minimum stay requirements. Thing is, they have not detailed, or the law does not detail the conditions. It is common, there's a common understanding that this money, that the investment would need to be kept, and that you would be spending the usual 14 days every 2 years. This is just to play it safe, because again, not even the immigration department knows the exact meaning of the law. So to summarize, you sell your investment, you need to stay in Portugal about 2 months every year. You do not sell your investment, then you would still need to put in your 14 days a year, every 2 years, sorry.
Okay, let me extend that question also to what about if after 5 years they become citizens? Is there any?
No. Now, once you have reached citizenship level, there is absolutely no minimum stay requirement, because that would be similar to asking every Portuguese citizen to spend a number of days in Portugal to keep their citizenship. So once you become citizen, that is not a concern.
And they can sell their investment as well.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, is it possible to exit the investment and cancel the GV? We get this question a lot, and that's actually why Jamie says usually in most of her presentations, that's why she chose the Golden Visa, because you can simply sell your property and exit the investment and not continue your Golden Visa. There is no cost to it, and you sell the investment. And I must say that the investments we have chosen for our clients have actually benefited most of our clients. So you will make money from your investment in terms of capital appreciation and yield. And I proudly would like to say that the properties that we choose, we try and aim that these properties are positive investments. These we have some clients who have invested in these properties without the need for a Golden Visa, and in fact, the Golden Visa, PR, and citizenship is the cherry on the top. These investments are good generally for a diversification of funds, or generation of yield and potential capital appreciation as well. And so we feel that we want to take you through a positive investment, and the Golden Visa is the cherry on the pie. How long does it take to exit the investment? It depends on the type of investment you choose. If it's a property, it will be listed just like on any property, and depending on the area, some are probably faster, some are slower. If it's a fund though, yes, you are locked in. Many of the funds would lock you in for the period of, because again, it's a closed-ended fund, so the period of the, until the fund matures. So, so it depends on the type of investment, whether there is an exit, whether you're able to exit early. If it's a fund, I would generally say no. That is usually not part of a fund which for the Golden Visa. And if it's a property, yes, you can exit at any time. Let me go to the next question. Does Portuguese tax residence and citizenship for worldwide income? Antonio, you might, able to answer that.
Okay, you are only taxed on your worldwide income in Portugal if, number one, you become tax resident in Portugal. How do you become tax resident in Portugal? Two main situations. Number one, you spend over 183 days in a year in Portugal. So that if you do spend more than 183 days in a year in Portugal, you would be considered tax resident in Portugal, and therefore you would be taxed on your worldwide income. Number two, you would also be considered tax resident in Portugal if you happen to own a property in Portugal, which is considered your main place of residence. So if you declare that property to be your main place of residence, that would be presumed that you are a tax resident in Portugal. Of course, when you buy these properties for investment, for Golden Visa purposes, you will not be declaring them as your main place of residence. Rather, it's a secondary home for you. So in either of those two circumstances, you would be considered tax resident. Citizenship has nothing to do with it. It is basically whether you spend X amount of time in Portugal, or whether your main place of residence, where you live with your family, what you would call your home, whether that's in Portugal.
Okay. Is education for kids free as a permanent resident?
Yes, education for kids is free as a permanent resident and as a temporary resident as well. And this is school level we're discussing. Yes.
Okay, so we are in our 30s and intend to have children in the near future. Will they be covered under dependents when will their 5 years start, from the day they are born or the day the parents apply?
From the date the parents decide to include them in the program. So obviously they would have to be born first.
Okay, but children under a certain age, if they are citizens or PRs, they are naturalized, right?
If the parents obtain citizenship before the children have reached legal age, then they may pass on their citizenship to their children.
Okay. Thank you for all your questions. We are going to try and cover, I'm mindful of time, as many questions as possible. And if we don't, we will be emailing you a summary of this presentation and also getting back to you with your questions. I will just cover another 1 or 2 questions. I'm sorry if we don't get to cover some of your questions, but we will get back to you. And we want to say that usually we would follow up with you with a free consultation with Antonio after this. And so we will ask for your time, to sort of, we'll do a Zoom just like this, where you can answer, where Antonio can answer some of your specific questions, particularly with family dynamics and with your taxes. Antonio would be able to answer those.
Judith, can you answer the last 2 questions?
Okay. If parents aren't dependent, but both child are at university and working age, what would be the best way to go about for the application? We actually can, it depends on the ages of your children and whether they're studying full-time, but children who are studying full-time can definitely be reunified, and also parents who are dependent as well. Any news, Antonio, on travel in Portugal and when Asians can visit Portugal? We get answered this one. We get asked this one a lot. And as Jamie said yesterday to a client, things are changing every week. But yeah, Antonio, you might.
Well, in terms of traveling, there are 2 situations. One, essential travel and non-essential travel. For non-essential travel, only residents from a limited number of countries can actually travel. And in Southeast Asia, I believe right now it's Thailand and Singapore. That's for non-essential travel. For essential travel, meaning business purposes or studying purposes or people that already have a resident card, et cetera, they can come over.
Yeah.
Has to be justified.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for attending our presentation today. We will be getting back to you with an email summarizing this presentation and also giving you all our details. If you'd like to request for a Zoom with Antonio or any one of us, do contact us. I will put up our contact details again in our last slide over here. So if you are inquiring from the Philippines, Vicky's number is there at the bottom. And then if you're inquiring from Indonesia, there's Georgina as well, and then Jamie and my contact details as well. Yeah, we'll send you out an email. Thank you so much for joining today. Any last words, Georgina, Vicky?
Yes, thank you so much. First, thank you so much, Judith, for taking some of my jobs in the Q&A. There are some Indonesians here, and I will be in contact with you after this. And some of you have been in contact with me before the webinar. So anyway, thank you so much. And also I have a friend from London here joining. Nicholas, thank you for joining the webinar this time. Okay, Vicky, your last
Yeah.
word.
Yeah, thank you everyone for joining. Reach out to us. We all work together. I work with Judith and Jamie and Antonio for the Philippine market. So if you have any questions, would like a private Zoom, or just would like to chat with me over Viber or WhatsApp, for sure we could do that. Just let us know, and and Judith will send out follow-up emails and like a summary of today's webinar. Reach out for anything. We are here for you. Thank you.
Thank you. We do work as a team, and our aim is to take you not through the investment, but also through the 5 years. Antonio will obviously be representing you in terms of your renewals and your tax and all that. So he will definitely be in touch with you throughout the 5 years and beyond. And we are here also to assist you in your investment in terms of the yield and beyond your purchase, but also when you want to sell it one day. We'll also be here for you. Okay, thank you very much again for joining us. We're just going to say goodbye. Have a really good evening and really good day.
And a nice weekend, everybody.
Yeah, have a nice weekend, everybody. Thank you.
Next weekend.
Thank you. Goodbye. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Stay safe. Bye.